Amazing. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're looking forward to the session today. Lots of great things to share. So again, thanks for joining us. Um, to returning organizers, as well as those joining us for the first time, welcome to another organizer webinar. Today, we'll be talking specifically about promoting your events and marketing and media strategies. My name is Fernanda Sierra Suarez. I am the Community Engagement and Programs Manager at the Culture Days National Organization. And I'm very happy today to be joined also by my colleagues, Communications Specialist Mercedes Blackwood, Network Support and Outreach Coordinator Beck Huang, and Communications Coordinator Aminata Mboop, to share relevant insights later along in the presentation. Just a few quick reminders on the Zoom webinar settings and access features that you'll be able to access today. You can personally turn on the option for captions and for closed captions below on the screen. This will create auto-generated English captions. Just as a reminder, only the presenters' microphones and cameras will be on, but please use the chat to share where you're tuning in from. You're also welcome to add questions to the Q&A box below. If time allows, we will be hosting a brief Q&A session at the end of the presentation. However, we are always happy to connect further if you do have any questions that were left unanswered, and feel free to email us at info@culturedays.ca for any of your questions or requests. And as a reminder, today's session will be recorded and available next week if you wish to review it or share it with your colleagues and network. The slide deck will also be available for your sharing purposes. Before I get into what we'll cover today, I want to acknowledge that the Culture Days Network is present and active in all corners of the country and collaborates with a vast array of people, organizations, and communities across Indigenous territories. Culture Days and our partner organizations are committed to working with First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities, seeking to uphold equity for all to participate and support the diversity of art forms and cultural expressions. Today, I'm speaking to you from the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. This area, now called Toronto, is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and these territories are guided by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt Covenant. So as I mentioned, today's session is packed with marketing and media tips to help you promote your Culture Days events with confidence and with creativity. So here's a little bit about what we'll be covering today. We'll talk about Culture Days, the Culture Days campaign and what it's all about, how to use dashboard event promotion tools, how to join in and tap into the marketing campaign, and specifically how to make it your own. We'll also talk about the Culture Days marketing drive for all your graphic and design resources, as well as some social media engagement tips to grow to engagement. And we'll also be talking a little bit about local media and how to tap into those community networks by giving also an overview of what arts coverage we're seeing at this moment. So let's get started. For those joining us for the first time, and as a super quick refresher to the many returning organizers that are here today, I'll just quickly talk a little bit about the purpose of Culture Days and the campaign. So Culture Days is Canada's annual celebration of arts, culture, and heritage. Every year across the country, thousands of free, participatory arts and cultural events are offered by independent organizers as part of these celebrations. And we welcome millions of people to participate and create, share, and celebrate what it is to live a life enriched by arts and culture. In 2024, over 5 million people across Canada participated in over 4,000 events. And really, the aim of Culture Days and all of these associated events are to encourage the public to engage, interact, discover, or rediscover the importance of arts and culture in our lives and in our communities, and to inspire that year-round support. This year, Culture Days is taking place across the country from September 19th to October 12th. Now I'll invite my colleague Beck Huang to chat a little bit about what it means to participate in Culture Days and to share an overview of the features available specifically through the Culture Days event registration dashboard that can support your event management and promotions.
Thank you, Fernanda, and thank you to everyone joining us today. As Fernanda kindly mentioned, I'll be sharing a bit about what it means to participate in Culture Days, how you can get involved, and I'll also walk you through a few of the built-in tools available on our dashboard. As Fernanda previously mentioned, anyone can participate in Culture Days, from grassroots volunteers, libraries, and independent artists to major institutions, festivals, and municipalities. Everyone is invited to join in on the celebrations. You can participate in Culture Days by organizing an arts, culture, or heritage-focused event during the Culture Days dates and registering it on the Culture Days website. Culture Days events must be free to attend, but organizers can also choose to offer a pay-what-you-may option for admission, allowing optional donations. This policy aims to balance accessibility with cost recovery for organizers. Event registration is completely free and offers you access to event management and promotional tools like event embedding for third-party websites, a free RSVP pre-registration tool, as well as auto-generated social media graphics. By registering your event on the Culture Days site, the public can find your events via the Culture Days national listing and map. You can find more details about event eligibility in the Culture Days event organizer guide. The links will be provided to you in the chat. And to review the registration process, please access the step-by-step guide to event registration at culturedays.ca/dashboard. Now we'll be talking about a few of our dashboard registration tools. You can manage and promote your event directly from your Culture Days dashboard using a few of these super helpful built-in tools. We'll be highlighting a few features specifically for event promotions, but we encourage you to explore your dashboard for other helpful tools. If you would like to collect signups or registrants for your events, event organizers can activate our system's RSVPs during event registration and allow attendees to sign up or reserve a spot to your event through your Culture Days event page. You can set a limit for registrants and view or manage registrations. In the Events tab in your dashboard, you can set up RSVPs when you create the event in the Events tab, choose the event, and click on Edit. Find the RSVP or registration settings section and toggle Enable RSVPs to on. Organizers can optionally specify a maximum registration capacity for an event, as well as a registration deadline. Once you save and publish the event, you will receive email notifications for whenever someone registers using the RSVP tool. Alternatively, if you're already using the platform Eventbrite to collect registrations, you can connect it to your Culture Days event listing and import details from Eventbrite to auto-populate your Culture Days event form. You can also have the option to embed checkout so visitors can register or reserve tickets without leaving the Culture Days website. Next, I'll be discussing our widgets tool, which allows you to embed your Culture Days activities directly on your own website so visitors can see them without leaving your page. To add a widget to your website, first go to Embed Widgets to the Embed Widgets tab on the left side menu of your dashboard. At the top of the page, you'll find detailed instructions on how to copy and add the code of each published event or hubs. You can do this by copying the embed code and clicking on the Copy Snippet button, then pasting it onto your web page where you might want the widget to appear. Please note that depending on the software your website uses, you may need to add the source code of the page, add a new content block specifically for embedding custom code, or install a plugin to let you embed custom code. I'll now pass it back to Fernanda, who will talk a little bit more about the Culture Days collective campaign and how you can use the free marketing materials to take part.
So thank you so much, Beck. So we'll talk a little bit about the collective campaign that is Culture Days and how it activates across the country. And of course, how you can activate it and tap into it at that individual local level. So, at its core, Culture Days is a public engagement campaign that encourages participation and support for our arts, culture, and heritage sectors. And through this campaign, the aim is for the public to engage in low barrier access to arts, culture, and heritage experiences and activities while fostering that appreciation for creative expression. Last year, we marked 15 years of Culture Days. And here's a look what that added to. 55,000 events, 17,000 organizers, 25 million attendees in over 5,000 communities all across Canada. And we invite you to review the highlights from last year in our highlights page. It will be shared on the chat. So, Culture Days is an open invitation to collectively showcase and amplify the arts, culture, and creativity in your communities and to amplify that impact and that value. Through different communications and marketing resources that we offer, you can align your communications as well as some of the visual messaging to link it to not only the national, but also regional and local campaigns that are all working together to highlight all of these events during the event period. More specifically, we invite you to check out the multiple communication and outreach resources, as well as templates available in the Culture Days Marketing Drive. This includes a key messages guide with key messages guide, as well as outreach one-pagers, letter templates, info decks that can be useful, again, not only for promotions, but for outreach and to continue to build the Culture Days in your communities. You can also amplify your reach with free Culture Days tools that are part of the event registration and the search. One way that you can use those tools is through using event tags. When you register your event, you'll be able to include tags that are relevant to the format, language, theme, access features of your event. And by using those, folks in the public listing can filter events through tags and find you easier. So by using them, you're able to connect more directly with your desired audiences. So we encourage you to activate those, as well as taking advantage of the geolocation map available at the Culture Days listing. So that's at culturedays.ca/events. And that's a big part of the registration system so that you are able to be found of the map and nearby audiences can find your events. Lastly, another tool that we wanted to highlight for these purposes is creating event hubs. So hubs are groups of events that can be linked together by themes or location or organizers. And it is a way to collaborate with perhaps other community members or community organizations to increase your visibility, but also to tag team that promotion and encourage attendance. For specific steps on how to set up a hub, we encourage you to look through the step-by-step guide available at culturedays.ca dashboard/hubs, also being shared in the chat. So we hope that we make it easy as possible to make the campaign your own through the different materials on offer. And this is a way for you to join in on this collective effort to promote and champion arts and culture from the local to the national. So to access these materials, once your event is registered and published, you'll get to look through different materials available in your dashboard. You can find this at culturedays.ca/dashboard/marketing. And all of these tools will also be available once you go into your dashboard. In the left side of your menu, you'll see a tab called Marketing. So whether you're ready to use assets that are ready-made or you want to customize your templates, you can access different tools directly through your dashboard, but we'll be going through other ways where you can also build more customizable assets for your needs. something that we wanted to highlight are some really creative and unique ways that you can also highlight and integrate culture days into your programming, promotion, and spaces. So some examples that we wanted to share to start, the first one, the city of Brantford. So their Culture Days on the Trails event invites trail users as well as audience members to enjoy free mini concerts and performances across the trail, across the 2 kilometer trail. So they'll feature painters, musicians, dancers to along the path display. Uh, and invite audiences to walk through. And what they've done in the past, as you can see in the image, is use some lawn signs with some of their event details and even a customizable QR code for quick access on the guide on their site. So yeah, a nice way to point towards a Culture Days event, um, and have it also be a useful piece of promotion material. Another example, the glass mosaics in Saskatoon. Uh, the Saskatchewan Craft Council hosted this event, and they created lovely custom aprons through screen printed Culture Days logo. It's a very eye-catching and functional way to incorporate the logo into your event. And a couple of examples we wanted to highlight. One is from the Slovak Folklore Society dance workshop in Vancouver. During their workshop, as you can see, they project the Culture Days logo onto their event venue screen. And it's just a nice way to include the visuals, and maybe to include it in a way that if you don't have to print also materials, perhaps, but it's still present there. And another example is a passport printmaking with Jackie Sullivan in School of Arts, Port Perry. For this event, as you can see, the Culture Days text was incorporated into the stamp making designs. They created a really lovely, subtle way to encourage participants to connect the event to the larger campaign, but through this really creative artwork. So again, you can use different assets from the marketing drive, but also create your own and also adapt them to best match your event style and your community. So speaking about all of these materials that we have on offer, your go-to resource for accessing all of this, including font and logos and building your customizable posters, social media frames, animated resources, all of that can be accessed through the Culture Days Marketing Drive. You can find this drive again through your dashboard as well as the public site, and we'll be sharing those links on the chat as well. So this marketing drive, it's organized as a Google Drive. So when you open it, it'll look like a shared folder, but you can browse through it, download full folders, you can grab individual items, whatever works best for you and your needs. And once again, in this drive, you will find a wide range of assets that can support your outreach and promotions. So that includes ready to post promotional assets, customizable social media graphics. We'll go over the Canva templates in a second. Also wanted to highlight, we do have multilingual assets posters, as well as some DIY swag items, outreach templates. And again, I'll mention the Culture Days Key Messages Guide includes not only guidance on visual themes and how you can connect the Culture Days brand and look into your social media graphics or event posters, but here you'll also be able to find communications and talking points on how to incorporate campaign keywords and guiding themes. We also included in this guide some different key messages and descriptors, as well as some additional messaging that talks about art's value and how you can use those and incorporate them in your own communications. You can also create ready-made promotional event graphics directly from your event dashboard. This takes place directly in the Manage and Promote tab, and you find this tab by first going into your dashboard. On the left-hand menu, you will find Events, Manage and Promote, and when you click and Manage and Promote, you will see Social Media Graphics tab. And in here, you'll be able to create ready-made promotional graphics that can be downloaded and also somewhat customized. I'll quickly go over those steps. But again, if at any point you have questions, feel free to reach out and we're happy to help. So this is what the social media graphics tab will look like in your dashboard. You will have the option to choose a layout that works best for your socials. The different sizes are either portrait or format. So the difference is the 3x4 or the 9x16. So it's the Instagram like post option or like more the story or the reel format. Those are the ones available through this specific auto-generated portal. Once you select the size, you can also then select directly the time slot, as you can see here, of your published event. You can choose the panel color, the language, and also the layout that you prefer. As you can see here, it'll work better with some photos to use the layout horizontally or vertically. So you can choose whatever one works best for you, as well as the color that you'd like to match your style. Once you have selected all of these options to your liking, you are able to download your finished graphic directly as a JPEG and share it online through social media or email as an attachment in newsletters or as on your website. Okay, so we also wanted to quickly talk about the additional templates that allow you to create more customizable graphics. So we have worked on some templates through Canva, and Canva is a free, user-friendly online graphic design tool. You can find these templates also in the Marketing Drive. You'll find a folder called Digital and Social. And in this folder, there is a document called Social Media Template Links. I will now show you what this looks like. So again, in the Marketing Drive, under the Digital and Social folder, you will find this document. If you're looking for specific guidance and instructions on how to use Canva, please refer to the written instructions here. And then we've also linked a video demonstration that we had done in a previous webinar on specifically tools that you can use through Canva just to make the most out of your designs. This is, again, what the document will look like, and what we'll ask you to do once you select the template that you like. It'll open, and something that we'd like you to note is that you do not need to request edit access to the original template, as it'll take longer for that request to go through. While instead, what you can do, again, through that link, is quickly go through File on the top left of your screen. You go to File, make a copy, and you'll find that the template is now here, a copy of the previous template. So this is directly on your Canva account, and no one else will be able to edit it. So this copy now just becomes your place where you can add photos. You can move the different assets in here. You can delete. And then we'll encourage you here to add your details for your event. So again, if at any point you have any questions or requests for specific files, feel free to reach out to us and we can support. And once again, if you do need extra support on building these templates or just on how to use Canva, we invite you to look through those instructions and previous recording. As we're talking about building posts, we also wanted to mention and encourage you to apply online accessibility practices to make sure that your promotions and communications are inclusive and then are reaching all your audiences. A few tools we wanted to highlight include the check contrast and color checker. We like to use a tool called WebIM Contrast Checker, and this check will tell you if your text is readable depending on the colors that you've chosen for your graphics. We also encourage you to choose accessible fonts. So the sans serif fonts are preferred for clarity in graphics. If possible and when possible, add alternative text and image descriptions that are specifically good for screen readers. And again, for more guidance and specific practices on all of this, we encourage you to check out the takeaway tip sheet from a previous webinar called Who Can Experience My Post? An accessibility guide to everyday social media that we developed in collaboration with artist Yasmin Nemat Allah. So now I'd like to introduce my colleague Aminata Mboop. And she will share some specific insights on social media engagement strategies and some things to consider as you're building all your wonderful designs.
Thank you, Fernanda. So as Fernanda mentioned, we're kind of going to move towards social media engagement practices. And we can start with just daily practices like monitoring your own feed, making sure you're into what your followers are discussing and reposting. That comes also with observing current trends based on the season to have an idea of how to speak to them and when they're expecting certain information. That also leads us to weekly content ideas. So behind the scene videos, just making sure that the content you have planned for the next few weeks is in tune with what people are expecting. So you can use a content calendar for that to help you address your audience and just make sure that in the heat of things you don't miss important deadlines like registration, etc. You can also try to explore interactive content because these platforms, they evolve really quickly and things change all the time. But something that really works is just to make sure that you're always interacting with your audience and people who follow you. So you can diversify your content by posting polls or questions or doing challenges on your story. And I would say as a baseline, always make sure to reply to comments in a good time frame and also make sure to reply to DMs and messages because people will then know that they're interacting with something and there's just resources available to them rather than just an account that is feeding information without any real goal. That can also lead to you creating diverse formats of content. So you can make reels instead of just posting photos. You can make sure you have dynamic images in your content as well, because it'll allow you to reach a broader audience. Let's say if you post on your feed only, but you don't really post reels or videos, then you're missing on a new audience, let's say on the reel side of Instagram. And that can allow you to just tap into an audience that is completely new and is not part of your follower list. So that can help you get your message out faster in those ways. And I would say one of the main things I would also advise would be platform optimization. So finding the key used features on different platforms. Let's say if you're navigating between Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, just making sure that you're catering to the specific needs of your audience on their preferred platforms. Depending on demographic, people will engage with Instagram more, or they'll be on YouTube more, or they'll be on Facebook more, depending on who you're speaking to and etc. So on each platform, you can have the same message. Just make sure you just edit the format a little bit so it can be reposted as wide as possible and cater to the algorithm on those platforms. So let's say on Facebook, it's just a feed videos. On LinkedIn, you can make use of more reposts and tagging more organizations. And I think that leads us to also how to connect as a community and connect to the Culture Days national messaging. And we encourage you to connect with us and your regional partners before, during, and after Culture Days for sure to help showcase your events. And we'll share the individual regional social media information at the end of the presentation. Regardless of where you're participating from, try to connect with the campaign through the Culture Days tag. We can share your best photos from your events, your videos, tag us on your stories, use the key visual guide and hashtags to connect with us as well. That should be available in the key messaging document that we have prepared for you. You can consider collaborative posts with your event partners to amplify your post because you'll be able to reach their audience as well as yours. You can tag us and tag the Culture Days regions to extend your reach even further, or repost the content that we already have prepared because sometimes the messaging is being done on other platforms. It might be faster for you and less work to just repost something that's already been done, that's catering to the same information and audience. So yeah, I think these are tips and tricks that can just help you manage your social media engagement a bit better because things change quite fast, especially in 2025. And yeah, I'll now pass it on to Mercedes so she can share about crafting your message to represent your event and tips and how to engage with local media and community networks.
Amazing. Thank you, Aminata. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Maybe again, as many of you have been here before. So welcome back and welcome to those of you who are new. As always, we're really thrilled that you're here. So you've just heard about a lot of really great tools and platforms that we provide, resources and such to help you make the most of your Culture Days experience. We also know it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So I'm here to talk a little bit about how to take all those tools and resources and so on, and really just craft your own strategy related to how are we going to think about this, how are we going to plan, and how are we going to execute? How will we build our own marketing program that's in complement to what the national office is doing? And so that's what we'll look at now. So I like to keep things simple, as you know. And so first things first, if you haven't registered your event, if you haven't created dashboards, things like that, get those things out of the way, okay? Get those things out of the way so you can get right to the business of being part of this marketing campaign, okay? So the first thing I want you to think about before you go to the templates, before you start to write any social copy, before you start to do anything, I want you to step back from your event. And I want you to figure out what is the true carrot? What is the thing about my event that is fantastic, that is unmissable, that makes people stop, pay attention, and notice? What's rare about it? What's unusual? What's the transformation you're providing? So I'm going from point A when I walk in the door to point B when I leave here today. What does that look like? I want you to really think about what are those gems about your experience that you're providing that really make people take notice and want to participate. Sometimes it's good here as well to go a little bit outside your own walls and talk to somebody else. We think certain things are really awesome about our event, but it could be that something else is what really stands out to other people. So I invite you to ask a few friendlies what they might think about what are those standout features of your event. Now, this isn't just the benefits and features. This really is that rare thing that you're providing to the audience, okay? We'll talk about features and benefits in a moment. So once you figure out what is that carrot, what is that gem that people want to really grasp onto, you want to figure out who are those people exactly. Now, some of the answers are really obvious. Some of you have fans already. You have followers. You have people who patronize your businesses, your services. And so you already know that audience. Well, there's a whole audience out there of people who love what you do, want to participate, want to be part of what you're doing. They just don't know you exist. And so I want you to think wider about who might be interested in what it is you're offering, right? So you've got your current fans and you've got those who might be interested, but think differently about who might be interested. And while you're thinking about the individuals, that is the public, who will come to the events, I also want you to think about like-minded organizations, other events that are happening, other individual artists or groups that are doing things that you can look at and say, okay, I think they might be part of our audience too. We're just going to park that for a minute, but I see some similarities in what we're doing. And I think we might be able to leverage each other's networks and maybe work together. touch on that later in a minute too, okay? But think about those people as well. Next, we're going to tie it all together. So we've figured out what that carrot is. What is that thing that people will stop and listen to? And we raise awareness about what it is that we're offering. And then we've also figured out who can really hear this message, who's interested, those who want to try a thing, those who are already good at a thing and want to get better, those who are already experts and want to work with other experts to really hone in on their craft. There's all levels to this. And so once you've figured that out, you tie it all together. How do I talk about the gem, the carrot of my unmissable event to the people that I believe would be interested in attending? Who can I talk to and work with in order to make this more enticing? We want to tie it all together. And this is the time when you start to look at the different mediums that you're really good at. So maybe somebody on your team or yourself, you're really good at video or graphics. Maybe one of you is a really good writer, and so you're really good at writing the captions. Maybe somebody else is really good at flyers and posters. This is how you can start to figure out what kinds of materials, what kinds of content, what kinds of messaging do the people who would come to our event need to hear in order to actually take notice and come out, right? So we want to make sure that we're thinking about those things before we touch anything, but this is where it starts to take some shape. And then lastly, we want to expand and collaborate. So this is where we're going to touch back onto how we can work with others to further amplify our event, right? So we're removing barriers to know as well in all of this, right? So when we're looking at our audience and how we're relating it, how we're talking about it, we're figuring out, how can I answer those questions? This is where we get back to those features and benefits. How can I answer those questions that will help people remove the no, right? We're trying to get a little sales and marketing in there, and we want people to say yes. So what features, what benefits, what do you need to tell people so that they can say yes? Is it easy to get to? Is it great for kids? Or will there be no kids, right? It depends on what will appeal to somebody. Is the weather a factor? Is parking a factor? These are all little things that you can talk about in some of your messaging in order to make it more enticing to somebody, remove those barriers to know, and let somebody feel like, you know what, this is a great opportunity. I'm just going to come out and do it. When we're looking at expanding and collaborating, again, I want you to think more broadly than even just, maybe there's 3 other arts organizations nearby doing something similar. Work together, talk to each other, figure out how you can create a holistic experience for anyone who comes into your area. So now, instead of just tapping into your own network, you're tapping into everybody else's as well. But this is also where the media comes in, right? The media can help us to further break through our own networks, break through the audience that we've already connected with, and reach new people. They can help us to spread it more widely. And when you think about connecting with the media, I know it can be really nerve-wracking, but we've provided so many great tools in addition to the key messaging guides, which is where we've done the heavy lifting in terms of what language you can use. We've also have an extensive guide for how to approach the media, whether it's newspaper, radio, blog. There are many different people who could be interested in what you're doing and who want to share it with their audience, right? So you're leveraging that as well. And I want you to think bigger as well. It's not just arts and culture media outlets. It's not just magazines and blogs that have to do with dance or craft. We've been covered by many different types of media outlets and many different stories. So we have been covered by business outlets, culture, health, finances, and economics. So you would be surprised at how many different people and types of groups and organizations and media outlets might be interested in what it is that you have to offer. So step 1, figure out that carrot. What is that gem, that thing about your event that makes it completely irresistible, and really focus in on getting good about talking about it. Next, I want you to figure out, who are you talking to? Who are those ideal audiences that you're trying to reach? Where do they hang out in real life and digitally? How do they get their information? How do you get them to pay attention given their busy and noisy lives? How do you get them to stop and look at you? It's by knowing them really, really well. Next, I want you to tie all of that together. Tie the carrot and the audience together. How can we talk about our event in a way that makes it unmissable? And how can we remove barriers to know? How can we make sure that people have enough information so that they can just come out and have a good time? And lastly, how can we expand beyond our own networks? How can we collaborate with other organizations, other artists, other municipalities, and the media to further amplify that message? Okay, so that's good there. I know you're going to do a really great job, and we always are excited to see what you come up with. Don't forget about all of those guides that go into much deeper detail about everything that I've just said so that we can guide you through the process. All right, I'll throw it back to Fernanda, who will continue to wrap it up. Get us going. Thanks, Fernanda.
Amazing. Thanks, Mercedes. Just quickly before you leave, was there anything you wanted to add about arts coverage overview, what you're seeing in the news?
Yeah, so we have the funny thing is that we've learned over these many years is that your natural instinct is to go straight to an arts and culture publication. I'm sure a dance magazine or an events magazine will be the one who covers it. Or maybe if I reach out to the Globe and Mail, I should just reach out to their events section, and they'll put us there. That's a really great start. But we have been covered by many different types of outlets, and we've shown up with many different types of stories. And so when you're making a pitch, feel free to go beyond the actual activity. What is the larger thing that you're providing? What's the larger transformation? What things in our society does this tap into today? Right now, we know what the political and economic and cultural climate is across Canada and certainly outside. And so this is a really great time to tout the fact that you are Canadian, that you are providing a very unique experience. We are our own special group. We are not like anyone else. And so we have great interest. And so I really encourage you as you look out into the media as to who could I pitch to, who might be interested, think beyond arts and culture. We are covered by just about every industry vertical there is. So be bold.
Thanks so much, Mercedes. So before we move into a couple of questions, we will have time to address some of your questions. Additionally, thank you for everyone that has been sending questions throughout the presentation. So I like to share just some key dates and reminders before we move on. As a reminder, the larger public engagement campaign runs from August through October. The Culture Days event period runs from Friday, September 19th through Sunday, October 12th. We also wanted to highlight the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation that this year takes place on Tuesday, September 30th. Culture Days highlights activities that are led by First Nations, Métis, and Inuit organizers, as well as events that engage with themes of truth and reconciliation during this time. So you can find more information on how to participate and how these events are highlighted during the Culture Days campaigns. We also wanted to note that event registration is open up until Thursday, September 18th, midnight Eastern time. However, we really encourage you to register your event as soon as you're able to ensure that the promotional timelines and the campaign efforts that happen throughout August and September, we have an eye on your events and we can promote accordingly. We also wanted to highlight how to connect with those regional networks that we keep mentioning, and they are all across the country, and we really encourage you to tap into them and to connect with them, not only through the website, but also through social media. On screen, you can see our different regional partners and information on how to contact them. So for specific emails, if you're looking to connect with team members, you can find that information by going into the regions tab at the top of the Culture Days site, as well as the links on screen. As mentioned earlier, feel free to connect with us at Culture Days via social media, and then also through our regional partners. we wanted to mention just two regions where Culture Days works a bit differently. And someone did have a question about this in the chat. So thank you for asking. In Alberta and Quebec, things look a bit different. So Alberta Alberta Culture Days is administered through the provincial ministry, and it runs earlier, so for the full month of September. And it is a way to complement their month of the artist that it is September. So they run from September 1st to September 30th. And for Quebec, the National Culture Days initiative was actually inspired by the success of Les Journées de la Culture in Quebec. And this celebration happens each year on the last weekend of September. Their team there hosts a separate event listing, and it supports those events specifically. So definitely get in touch with Alberta Culture Days or Les Journées de la Culture if you are tuning in from those areas and would like to participate. So seeing that we do have a few minutes for some questions, I'll invite Mercedes to join us back on screen. Thank you so much, Mercedes. I wanted to first start by asking you, since you mentioned, how Culture Days can be that starting point of building visibility, how can we continue this momentum after Culture Days ends to continue engaging with audiences, media, and continue to develop those relationships beyond the event?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is not very sexy, but true, which is build that plan for yourself. So one of the best things that you can use this opportunity, this time for, is to build yourself a sustainable strategy. What can I actually handle? How many times can I really create content and post it and respond? This is a great time to figure those nuts and bolts out, because if you do that during this time, when Culture Days is over, that strategy keeps going. And you learn how to continuously engage with your audience in all of the different mediums. So if I can give advice, it would be to really take the time to build yourself your own little strategy that you can continue beyond Culture Days. To start off, in terms of how can I just begin in this area, is talk to other people. So if you can connect with those who've been there before, who are newer to this, or they're very experienced, and you can work together in terms of figuring out, well, what are you doing? Oh, okay, could we do that together? Could we collaborate in some way? That's usually the best way to start. I hope that answers that question.
Amazing. Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. And I also wanted to point out a resource that was shared in the chat and a way to think beyond arts and culture and talking about, those stories and the community well-being. Hillary Martin shared in the chat the material through Make the Case on Arts and Health that can help event organizers link your events to those greater messages about community well-being and engagement.
Yeah, I saw that from Hillary. If I can jump in, I also see another question that kind of goes around it. So thank you for sharing that, Hillary. There's a question about giving an example of a publication to pitch, right? And so let's use what Hillary's introduced. So let's pretend your event is pottery. So you might be thinking, okay, I'll reach out to an arts magazine. Well, what if a study has come out? What if there are statistics that show that using your hands in art is somehow related to increased mental well-being? Pitch to a health publication, pitch to the health reporter of a larger publication and say, I'd like to tie this together. There's a study that makes it very timely and relevant, because that's one thing with pitching, okay? It has to be timely and relevant, and you have to ask yourself the question, who cares? Not in a cynical way, but in a sincere, empathetic way. Who cares about this? Does the publication's audience care about this? Is this something they're interested in? Is it something they cover on a regular basis? Do they put resources towards it? So that's a good example of a way of tying two things together. So yes, making the case, and there are some other great resources out there where you can pull statistics and studies, and these are great anchors for pitches. Now, in terms of pitching, as I said, there's the larger guide, but really, when you do the 4 steps that we just talked about, you've already crafted your a bit of your pitch. That is, you've figured out what that carrot is. That's a carrot for anybody. Anybody can eat that carrot. And that's just the thing that's really interesting about your event. You figured out the audience, which means you've already figured out what publications or outlets or sites might cover what you're doing. So you've already done that. And then remember when we were saying, let's tie it all together. So you've already thought about, well, how do I talk about this event in a way that really highlights to the people that I want to hear it? And so that's the skeleton of your pitch. Because when you're pitching to a publication or journalist, that's what you're doing. You're saying, I think this would be a really interesting thing for you to talk about to the people that you talk about things to. That's really all that it is. And so, again, you are approaching in a way that says, I have really great content for you to share with your readers, listeners, watchers.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mercedes. And on that note too, again, just bringing back the key messaging guide that you will have access to. It's just a simple way to access some of these talking points that we keep bringing up, just as a way to craft your messages and make them your own always. I wanted to also mention, someone asked if using any of these social digital assets is mandatory, or how does it work? So definitely you're free to market your events as you please, but all of these resources are really provided to tie your events to that wider campaign. And then also, as Mercedes keeps suggesting, these are, what we've seen throughout the years, what works, and how to connect with these different networks. Some of those words, some of those guiding themes that can help, build your press coverage, your media involvement, and all of that. So again,
yeah, when you're, sorry about that, Fernanda, when you're figuring that out, remember there's no need to be everywhere all the time. Nobody can. So pick your strong points. Pick the areas where you're really strong. So go across social media and be really realistic. Are you really great on Instagram and not so great on Facebook? Are you really great on YouTube, but you can't stand Twitter? X, you figure it out and be really realistic about your capacity, your desire, your skill set, and then use the tools that we've provided to help do the heavy lifting in each of those areas. And then, as I said, you can continue that as you go forward. No need to be everywhere all the time. Be strong in a few places where your audience resides, and you're doing great.
Amazing. Thank you, Mercedes. That's very helpful. Wanted to also quickly say, for any hashtags that we recommend using with promoting events, definitely you're encouraged to use hashtag culture days. That way we can review that hashtag and make sure that your content is being reshared. But what we've also seen in the past is specific communities create their own hashtags. So hashtag community name culture days. And that way you can have that collection of posts that are going through social media channels all be linked through that hashtag. And I think that leads us to the end of our presentation. And I'll just reiterate once again that to stay up to date with news and resources, other learning opportunities, and any communications from our regional partners as well, please sign up through the national newsletter and the regional newsletters. You can find that at culturedays.ca/newsletter. If you have any follow-up questions or need assistance in creating your marketing materials, graphic assets, or downloading any of the materials that we mentioned, please send us an email at info@culturedays.ca. Once again, the presentation slides and the recording of this webinar will be sent to you directly through your emails next week. And once again, I really want to thank my colleagues, Beck, Aminata, and Mercedes for joining today, and for all of you returning folks and new participants. We're really looking forward to a lovely, vibrant Culture Days 2025. So thank you all and take care.